So today I wanted to talk about something that's been quite significant for me and for my health. Not just emotionally, but physically and neurologically. And that's the difference that having housing better suited to my needs has made for me, especially while living with functional neurological disorder. Now, in my last video, or one of my last videos, I spoke about how hard I had to fight the housing system in order to be taken seriously and to get the accommodation that actually reflected my reality of my health. And I was doing that for a long time. What I didn't fully get into then is why that matters so much for someone with a condition like mine, and how deeply the living environment that you can be in can affect conditions, for example, with a condition like FND. Functional neurological disorder affects how the brain communicates with the body. The brain itself, it's not damaged. The signals between the brain and the rest of the body don't quite work like they should. And that can lead to very real and very disabling symptoms. Those symptoms are incredibly sensitive to stress, fatigue, overexertion, and even sensory overload. For me, F&D affects my mobility, my energy levels, my coordination, my cognition, and my nervous system regulation. All of these at different points. I experience weakness, difficulty with movement, episodes where my body just doesn't respond the way it should and the way I expect it to. And that's why I use an electric wheelchair, which is in the other room. When I'm out of the house, I use it all the time, and occasionally inside the house as well, depending on how my symptoms are doing. It's not about the inability, it's about the safety, the stability, and preventing neurological overload. Fatigue is another huge part of functional neurological disorder. It's not the kind of tiredness that you can just push through. It's not the kind of tiredness that you can just get over. It's neurological tiredness, neurological fatigue. And it can come on suddenly, it can be delayed, and often it hits so much harder after you've already done too much. It's then too late. In unsuitable housing, that fatigue builds quietly in the background until it turns into a full crash. And this happens a lot because the housing is not suited to you. Cognitive symptoms are also a big part of my functional neurological disorder. Brain fog, difficulty concentrating, slowed processing, sensory overload, they can all worsen if my environment that I'm living in and everything is chaotic or demanding, and it's too much for me. Noise, lighting, clutter, and constant transitions between spaces, they all place extra strain on my nervous system, and these trigger the symptoms from FND even more. Stress plays a massive role too. A lot of the symptoms can be triggered by stress. When your housing doesn't suit your health, your nervous system is constantly on high alert. It's constantly waiting and alerting to anything that can happen. And you're always compensating, you're always planning ahead, you're always bracing yourself for the next difficult task, the next task that's going to take a toll on your energy. And that constant low-level stress, it keeps your body in this fight-or-flight mode. And for FND, that makes symptoms more frequent and more intense. A lot more intense. Right now, I am still in temporary accommodation, but it's longer-term temporary accommodation. And it's while I'm finding a permanent place, while a permanent place is being resolved with help from the housing system. I have a bathroom over here, and a kitchen, and a separate bedroom and living space. Like, the bedroom and living spaces are different. And even in that basic structure, it's made a noticeable difference to my health. One of the most important things I did was reconfigure the space to suit my health, rather than trying to force my body to fit to a normal, the place had already been to, a normal layout. I turned what would usually be the bedroom into my office, which is this room. And it's my office and streaming space. It gives me a controlled environment where I can manage lighting, sound, and positioning, and it keeps work separate from rest, allowing me to focus on my streaming and work better. That separation really matters for my cognitive symptoms. It makes focusing and concentrating easier. It doesn't relieve them completely. I then turned the living space in the other room that's connected to my kitchen into my bedroom. That decision was entirely about energy conservation, symptom management, and for days where I really need to rest. Being closer to the kitchen means fewer steps, fewer transfers, and less physical and neurological demand on my body, especially on those bad days. I can just get up from bed to the kitchen fast. When symptoms flare, being closer to food and hydration can be the difference between managing my health and deteriorating further. You have to make sure that you're keeping those basic needs up too. I still use the electric wheelchair. I use it outside the house, and occasionally I do use it inside, but because the space is better suited to me, I don't have to use it as much. The energy of just existing in my home is more manageable. That reduction in baseline effort that I have to use has had a knock-on effect across my symptoms, across all of them. Alongside the housing changes, I've also started using a device that's normally on my wrist, but it's charging right now. It's called a visible band, and I believe it's the 2.0 version that I have. It's a really important tool for helping me manage my pacing with FND. And honestly, I'd suggest it to anyone. One of the hardest parts of FND is that your internal signals aren't always reliable. You can't rely on the signals that most people would. I don't always feel when I'm overdoing things until my body's already gone too far. And then it's too late. By the time I feel exhausted or symptomatic, where the symptoms come on, the neurological overload has already happened. The visible band tracks things like heart rate variability, physiological stress. And the most helpful feature to me has been something that they refer to as pacepoints, which are like energy tracking. Pacepoints are a way of measuring how much energy that my body is actually using throughout the day, not how much that I think I'm using, because again, the signals, they're not the same. Every activity costs what they call pace points. And physical activity, cognitive effort, emotional stress, conversations, concentrating, all of them, they add up. And these pace points track this. What's been really eye-opening for me has been seeing how quickly pace points can accumulate. Even on days where I'm just there and I thought I was resting, pace points could show that I've used a lot of pace points. With FND, nervous system stress can be just as draining as physical stress and physical movement. The pace points make that visible, hence the name. The band gives me a daily pace point budget based on my baseline, so what I can do, what it thinks my normal usage is, and as I use my energy, I can see that budget being used up in real time. When I get close to the limit, it's a clear signal that I need to stop and rest before my symptoms escalate. And this is really helpful. It tells me that I need to take a break now, not later. Not after one more task. Right then, right there. And that has been a huge difference for me. And it's because pacing isn't just about resting. It's about resting at the right time. Resting when you actually need to. The pace points, they remove the guesswork. It's not 100% accurate, but instead of relying on unreliable internal cues that are part of the condition, I have objective feedback that helps me protect my nervous system. Since using the visible band, I've noticed fewer boom and bust cycles, is what I refer to them as. Fewer severe crashes. And that's major. I've got more consistency in the way that I am. And when I combine that with a home that lets me, respond immediately, that's where real change happens. It's a major difference. The band doesn't fix FND. It doesn't make it disappear. My housing doesn't fix FND. My housing doesn't make it disappear. The wheelchair itself, it doesn't fix it either. But together, they help me manage it in a way that kind of preserves my health instead of constantly draining it. They're not luxuries. They're not. They're tools. These are literally my tools. They're my accommodations. They are what I need. And they're preventative care. What this means is they are what helps me manage. I'm still living with FND. I still have bad days. I really do. I still deal with the unpredictability of functional neurological disorder. But having a space that supports my body and supports my health is major. A device that helps me understand my limits has changed the way that I cope every day. And that difference matters more than people realize. It matters so much more. I want to say thank you to anybody who's been watching this video, and thank you to anyone who has been listening. I know that I said that I would post a video, and I didn't get round to it. That was because I got moved into temporary accommodation and then moved here. And you'd see my last video, I believe, was in the other temporary accommodation. It's been really crazy, busy, and health has been up and down. And I've had to focus on trying to get videos out, and I just couldn't get around to it. I couldn't get myself to sit there and snip parts of videos out, like the ends and stuff, or sit down and record or anything like that. But I'm finally somewhere where I hopefully should be able to do that more often again. And that's great. So, to anyone who has been watching this, anyone who's watched videos before or new, you're not alone. If you have FND or a chronic illness, or you don't have one, but you know someone who does, or you're just looking to find out more information, you're not alone. There are people out there with the same symptoms, the same experiences as you. And you may not know them, but they are there. And there are other people there to support you. You're not alone. I know you're there. I see you. And you got this. We've got to support each other in the journey through chronic illness. Thank you.